Hello, welcome to the show. It's been a while since I've done any videos, so I'm starting off with a nice simple one today. Today we are painting the giant gorilla, or the great ape, from Reaper Miniatures. This is a huge heavyweight miniature from Reaper. It is solid. I've mounted this miniature onto a 75mm base, covered it in some gravel, stuck the miniature together with some super glue, and as you can see there's a few little gaps here. And because it's a fur, we want to blend that fur in. So what I'm going to use today is some plastic putty from Vallejo, and we're going to fill in those bits of fur and sort of blend them in with the rest of the body. So I'm going to show you how I do that just now. Now I'm going to be using the old pokey stick from Reaper Miniatures as my sculpting tool, and all we do is we're going to squirt the plastic putty into the gap going around this miniature here. Now what we do is we fill in the gap, and there's a couple of ways you can actually blend it in with the fur. This Vallejo putty is absolutely fantastic stuff. I used to use the two-part epoxy resin, but this plastic putty is just perfect. Now you can use your finger, and you can just dab your finger along the top there. This will push the putty into the recesses and blend it in with the rest of the fur, like so. And then all we do is we just let that dry a little bit. So give it about 3 or 4 minutes, and that'll start to harden up. And then we can start going over the plastic putty with our little sculpting tool, just to maybe add a few extra lines. But all we're doing is filling in these gaps, unsightly gaps, and we're using our finger just to push the putty into the recesses and onto the fur, so it blends in. Once we got that undercoat in, then it won't show up so badly. And the same on this side. And again, just using my finger. And on the back of the head there, we can blend that into the back of the gorilla. So we just squirt some of the Vallejo putty into the back there. And using our finger, just pushing that into the fur so it blends into one. Like so. Nice and simple, job done. And all we do, and all the areas, tiny little bits there. Oops. And again, just using our finger to push the putty in. And there's a little bit on the leg, so we just go around the back of the leg there. Going around with our little, it's just like toothpaste, just adding toothpaste to your miniature. All the way around, fill in all those gaps, and again with your finger just take away the excess. And the gaps are filled. Lovely jubbly. Okay, so we just got to leave this for a little bit now, and then we can go and start sculpting out the little fur bits. So what I'll do is I'll just give it I'll leave it for 5 minutes and come back. Okay, so given it a few minutes to start to dry off. So all we do is we've got our little pokey stick here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start going across the fur from the other side of the arm to the body side, and we're just following the pattern on the miniature, and we're just blending that in with the fur. And the same on the back there. It's still a little bit wet, but it's dry enough now that I can actually sculpt this plastic putty to blend in with the fur. So all we're doing is following the lines of the fur, and we're just pushing little lines to make it look like the fur blends in nicely on each side. And that's all we do. It's absolutely super simple and great fun to do as well. and it fills in all those little gaps. And you can do this with your metal miniatures and your plastic miniatures, and as you can see, it looks great now. All those nasty gaps have all gone. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this an undercoat, and I shall be back once it's undercoated, and we'll fly through this paint. Now what I'm going for is I'm going for a great white ape, because I've got the jungle scene from Reaper Miniatures, one of the dioramas, and I've got all my ordinary apes. So of course I want the great ape to stand out, so he's going to be a great white. So I'm going to give him a nice wood stained brown to begin with, and we'll give it a nice fur effect going from dark brown to white. So we'll get on with that now. On my palette today I have some olive skin, I have some creamy ivory, and we have some dragon white by MSP Paints. You can't actually see them very well on here, but you've got the three in line there. So I've got a nice big brush, and what we're going to do is just quickly dry brush all the highest areas for our fur. And we're just going over the fur areas nice and quickly, and we're starting off with the darkest colour, and then we'll move on to the lightest colours. It's an absolutely fantastic little paint today. Painting fur is can look very, very nice once it's finished, and because we're using that dark undercoat, we have the shadows already made up for us. So all we need to do is work around the fur areas like we're doing, and all the highest areas. I'm using my light source as a guide to where the light is falling onto this miniature, so we're just following the contours of the light going onto the miniature. Very fast paint, nice and simple, but it'll look lovely once it's finished. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go into that ivory, and I'm going to mix that in with the brown on my tissue. And so we're going lighter now, and again we go back over the miniature on the highest areas. And now we're going, it's just the ivory now, so a little bit lighter. Made a mistake there, just take that off. So the highest areas are getting the most paint work at the moment. A little bit more on the sides, mainly the tops of the shoulder, the tops of the head having the most paint added. Okay, so now we're going directly into the dragon white. We're mixing that in 50-50 with the ivory. And this is our final little going over. It's just to highlight the rest of the fur. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, this is very, very nice indeed. Okay, so we're going to the final mix now, and that is just the dragon white. just pure dragon white on my brush now, and this is the final highlight. There we are, perfect. And that's it, that's all we need to do. This is our white fur for our king of the gorillas. Absolutely beautiful, awesome stuff. That's all I want to do for that fur, and we've got the nice shadow effect going underneath the belly of the gorilla. So what we'll do now is we'll let this dry completely, and then we'll come back, finish the fingers, do the mouth, nose and eyes, and that'll be this little gorilla finished. Now we're going to actually highlight the skin. Now we've got that first undercoat, and the undercoat is the wood stained brown, which is a very dark brown, and we're going back into our olive skin now with a fine brush, and what we're going to do is just go over all the areas, highest areas on the tops of the fingers, and just to highlight certain areas of this mini, and the top of the lip there, and bottom of the lip, just go down there, and just along here. And again on the tops of the knuckles, just going along here. These don't need much, it just gives another shade, because what we're going to do is we shall put a light brown ink wash over the skin areas of this miniature. And what we're trying to do is just pick out a little highlight on the skin, and we don't need a lot, it's just to add a little bit more of a 3D effect to the actual skin, make it look more natural. Let's get that ear done. And there's another little hidden ear just there, so we just add a little bit of paint to that one. There you go. I'll just add a little touch to the feet there, not much. I like to keep all my miniatures dark on the underbelly, but we just want a little bit of light hitting those toes there. So the skin's going to be a little bit lighter down the bottom. There we go. That's all we need. It's just playing on light. Okay, that's good. Right, let's get that tongue painted in. Now for the tongue, I am using Garnet Red by MSP. It's a nice dark red. So what we do is we just, for the first actual initial paint, we just go over the tongue with this nice dark red. What I find with a lot of painters is they will use the brightest red possible for blood or painting tongues and flesh, but in fact if you use a nice dark red to begin with, what you can do is, we've got the red here, we're going to just add a tiny bit of that white to that red so it's more pinky, and just give that a little mix. And all we need to do to finish that tongue off is just add a couple of lines while this paint is wet, and it will highlight the tongue inside. So, but just like a little V shape inside the tongue, and it's just a tiny bit lighter going to the front, and there we are, the tongue's done. So all that is dark red. I've added a little bit of white to the red to make it more pinky, and then just put it like a little V shape at the front of the tongue, and that makes it look like it's raised both sides, and you've got that tongue effect. The tongue effect. Okay, moving on to the teeth. Now for the teeth, we're going to use the dragon white, again using the same brush, because with the teeth we shall be going over with a brown ink wash. Let me actually change the brush. These teeth are quite small, so we'll go to a smaller brush. There we go, a little tiny weeny Reaper Mini brush. There we go. There's a tiny bit of paint on there, and we just take out those teeth. Lovely. Now the teeth, like I say, will be having a little brown ink wash. So what we're doing is just getting the tips of the teeth painted, and the ink wash will do the rest of the work for us on those teeth. There's your teeth. Let's get the eyes popped in while we're here. Big dollops of white. Big dollops of white. There you go, there's one. And next one, in you go. There's a good boy. We've got our little eyes in ready there. That's all we need to do for that. Let that dry, and then we just add some black. Okay, I shall let this dry a little bit more, and we'll come back and add those ink washes. I've added the ink wash now. All I did was use some soft tone ink wash from Army Painter, and I went over the face and the nose and the hands. It's still drying a little bit, but as you can see, it's blended in all that lighter brown in very, very nicely to the actual miniature. So all I want to do to finish this miniature off now is paint the eyes. So what we're going to do, I got some coal black by MSP Paints, got a nice small brush, and all we're going to do is add little black spots to the middle of the eyes. One there, and one just there. Absolutely fab. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to use the black and put a very, very fine line at the bottom of the eye. This will make the eye stand out even more. So it's just a little line around the bottom edge of the pupil, and the same on this side. It's just a tiny bit of black just to get in. What it does, it just highlights the white more and makes it stand out and makes it look more menacing. And the same on the top, just to add more shade, just above the eye, a little bit of black there. Let's just have a little black in there. Perfect. There we go. So there we are. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to finish off the base, and I'll come back and show you the finished miniature. But as you can see, a very, very simple paint, and it's all blended in nicely now. It looks fab. Once I've added some flocking to the base, this will be all finished, and I'll come back and show you a little 360.